Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Honor to the Sublime One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. All right. So we have done 7 out of 10 perceptions. We have 3 left. And these 3 kind of form or are connected to a grouping that many of you might already be familiar with. Although the grouping that they're connected to is, again, related to the experiential understanding, the experiential wisdom and insight. This is a natural thing that occurs when you develop the path. Again, with the perceptions, this is kind of like a preliminary. It's setting the groundwork. It's kind of like getting you thinking about what will eventually will arise from insight and wisdom. So the 3 that are connected are perception of non-delight in the whole world, perception of dispassion, and perception of cessation. So we'll go through each one of these 3. Again, if you're following along, these are not right next to each other, or at least I don't think all 3 of them are right next to each other in the sutta itself. But this is a grouping that I've put together in terms of choosing what to focus on in each talk. So, and what Ananda is perception of non-delight in the whole world. Here in Ananda, wherever in this world there are deceptions and grasping, decisions and adherence, and tendencies of the mind, a bhikkhu abandons them, does not cling to them, does not take delight in them. This Ananda is said to be the perception of non-delight in the whole world. So this one is kind of near and dear to my heart, because when I read this, I was like, yep, I know exactly what this is talking about. As somebody who was extremely engaged in the world for most of my life, politically, socially, these kind of things, I had reached a point in my practice where I looked out and I said, yeah, look, deceptions, grasping, decisions, adherence, all of these things. Yeah, yep, that's the way the world is. So I think I'm not going to have any enchantment with it, right? This is a non-delight. So non-delight, this is an important word. Non-delight is not aversion or hatred, right? Non-delight is pointing towards a more equanimous mind state. It's not going from, oh, I love the world and I'm so infatuated with everything in it, to I hate the world and I hate everybody. And right, that's one extreme to the other extreme. Non-delight is simply not being infatuated, simply not being enchanted. You're looking at, yeah, there's lots of things, you could say, well, look at this list. Well, there's people do good deeds, there's good things in the world. Yes, this is true. But again, we are developing a perception. The Buddha is giving us a perception to focus on the drawbacks, focus on the downside, right? To balance out our understanding. Instead of focusing so much on this, we focus on this to balance it out. So that we let go of our delight, our grasping, our attachments. When and not in this one, but the Buddha talks about in other suttas, when there's grasping, right? They have deceptions, grasping, adherence, etc. When there's grasping, when there's you want something, you crave, and you cling for something, then you try to acquire it. The Buddha says, in acquiring things is how people take up the sword, right? Take up the weapon and attack each other and things like that. The Buddha is basically kind of saying, well, from this root arises all kinds of suffering, arises all kinds of unskillful behavior. So it's actually better for yourself, if you are wanting to lessen your suffering, to develop the perception of the world in such a way that you do not automatically attach to it and get infatuated by it. Now, when you do the practice, you follow the Noble Eightfold Path, you honestly, sincerely develop the Noble Eightfold Path for years, you will develop the actual experiential understanding of this. This is called nibbida. Nibbida is a disenchantment. Again, not a hatred, not an aversion. You are just disenchanted. You were intoxicated, you were enchanted, now you're not anymore. You have that more balanced understanding of the way things are, and so you don't delight in things. What used to be something that you were excited about is not there. It's not that way anymore. The Buddha uses a simile. It's a wonderful simile. It's called castles or sand castles. And he uses an imagery of children 2,600 years ago in India making sand castles. And he says that while they're making the sand castles, they see it as precious and they take care of it and all these things. But once they're done with it, and if you've been around children enough, you see these. This is definitely, the Buddha knew child psychology and adult psychology. Once they're done with it, he says they destroy it and put it out of play. Right? When they have lost that infatuation, that desire, taking care of it, etc. Another example of this, again, with children, for me, children have been so much of my life that it's very easy to naturally come up with these kind of similes. And even Thanissaro Bhikkhu has made this simile as well. The idea is that if you have your own children or you're around children, maybe they're like 1, 2, 3 years old, they will often be attached to like a little doll or even like a little blankie or whatever. A couple of years ago, there used to be these, probably like 10 years ago, used to be these like little blankets with like an animal head on it. And if you're going to take that child somewhere, if they don't have that little toy, they will scream bloody murder. So you have to go find that toy so that you can, at least go to the shopping, the shopping center or the grocery store or whatever, without dealing with a child screaming for an hour and a half. And so then you give them the toy, and it's instantly everything stops. And just like that, right? But what happens a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later? It's in a bin somewhere. They've moved on. They have a more important toy. They've forgotten about it. And so when one develops nibbida, this is not a hatred. This is not an aversion. This is simply a letting go. I was so attached to all these things. I was so attached to the world and had so much expectations and things I wanted to do and all these things, but now I've let it go. I don't need to be attached to these things anymore. It's just a natural disenchantment. As you start to develop wisdom and insight, as you start to let go, you naturally want to let go of these things. I tell the story of kind of my own process as somebody who is a lifelong student of history and human nature and human culture. My major in college was anthropology, archaeology. And I remember just the crossroads intersecting. This is probably going back 2011, 2012, of my political career as I was never like a politician, but I was actually a party boss and very, very deeply involved in politics. Like the politics and history and human nature and Dhamma all kind of came to this one point where I realized, what am I doing? It was just like this insight that just started allowing me to let go. And it was around also that time that I was also thinking about becoming a monastic too. Why am I so causing myself so much suffering by being involved in these things, trying to ask from the world what it can't give me, trying to control and manipulate and make things the way I think they should be, rightly or wrongly? It's exhausting. And so my mind just started to let go. That's nibbida. Right? That's non-delight in the whole world. I mean, I can't say I'll be a monk for the rest of my life because I don't say anything is permanent. Nor can I say that there might be something out there that might take me out of the monastic life. But when I look at the world, I don't see anything. Everything that I was said of leaving 10 years ago, well, 12 years ago now when I left, is only just worse. It's not like it's, everything, the movies are better, this is better, that's better. Why am I in this monk life for? No. Everything that might have kept me out, away from the monk life doesn't look any more appealing than it did 12 years ago. So I just keep going that way. I keep going the way of Dhamma. And so this is what naturally occurs. And so obviously, for the average person who you don't have that direct insight and understanding, the point of developing this perception is actually to help you, to train you to start to let go. And you let go of small things. The Buddha tells us because of our views, right? We have certain views. We hold on to them so strongly. And that makes us butt heads with other people. That makes us do unskillful things, holding on so strongly. Instead, reflect, well, what can I let go of? Is this real? You can question, is this really worth all the frustration and the energy? And I don't even mean, I'm not saying like, is this marriage and my kids worth all this? And I'm just going to dump them all and become a monastic. That's not what I'm talking about. There's lots of things that you can practice letting go of, that you can have non-delight in, you can abandon. Right? There's lots of small things that you can do this practice on. And naturally, over time, as you develop the path, and over lifetimes, you just naturally start to have this disenchantment. So let's move on to the next one. And what Ananda is the perception of dispassion. Here in Ananda, a bhikkhu who has gone to the forest or to the foot of a tree or to an empty abode considers thus. This is calm. This is excellent. Namely, the calming of all mental formations, giving up all levels of rebirth, extinguishing craving, experiencing dispassion, nibbana. This ananda is the perception of dispassion. Now again, this is the Pali word viraga, or no passion. This is the second. First is nibbida. That's what's developed first. When you have a disenchantment, you naturally do not have the passion to do the same things that you used to, because you are not enchanted, enticed by this. So it's like, why bother? A very common example of this that most, maybe not brand new, but if you've been a Buddhist practitioner for a year or two, you might start to see this. A very common example of this is, before you become a Buddhist, you go out to the bar with your friends and you do hang out or whatever. You go and doing things and you start to practice, and, those places just start to lose their luster. They're just like, why am I doing this? Oh, I can go to this monastery for the weekend? Why don't I do that? That's much more interesting. That's much more nice and peaceful, right? To be with the monks, to listen to the Dhamma, to be in a peaceful place. Right? This is a very, very common experience among people who develop the path, right? And that is a dispassion. You have a dispassion, a disenchantment for something that you were enchanted about and you thought was the greatest thing in the past. You've let go of it. You've grown beyond it. And, that often also comes with the friends that were connected to those places do tend to drift apart. Not because you just abandoned them, just because you start having different priorities. Right? And then you start developing Dhamma friends. You want to sit and talk Dhamma with them for years and years and years. Yeah. Or hours and hours, I should say. But this is dispassion. This is the natural progress. Now, what about this perception? Again, this is a counteracting perception. Normally, what do? We get infatuated and involved, and we like to daydream. Mental formations. So, mental formations. A modern translation of this is choices. It is a creation of the mind. Right? You are creating something in the mind, a thought, an impulse, etc. And actually, the deeper you go down the path, you realize actually that is exhausting. So you say, oh, this is so nice. The mind is so calm, so peaceful. The first time I experienced the mind going completely silent, where I wasn't in a flow state. A flow state is, a quiet mind, but you're usually doing something, right? When I wasn't in a flow state or I wasn't falling asleep or anything, where I had literally nothing in the mind but complete silence for minutes. That was a profound break. That was, whoa, that can actually happen? I went like 30 years of my life with my mind always. And then I had this break. Now, fast forward 14 years later, that's how my mind is about 70% of the day. Just complete silence. Oh, if there's something going on or something important, then, the mind, the monkey mind, as the Buddha says, does come back. But most of the time, my mind is just resting in quiet. And when you start to experience that, you really do, oh, this is so nice. This is so calm. This is so peaceful. Right? This is what the Buddha is saying, is like kind of reflecting on this. Oh, you like being in raptures? Well, contemplate the possibility that actually giving up all of these things and having a calm, quiet mind is actually beneficial. It's actually worth it. It's actually good. It might actually be better. You might like it better, right? So develop that perception that this is actually a good thing, right? Having a calm, quiet mind is a good thing. You will like it. Your mind might not see it yet, but once it experiences it, your mind will incline towards it. So this perception, developing this mind state, this attitude of dispassion, again, not aversion, not hatred, letting go of passion for that, letting go of desire for that, resting in equanimous desirelessness, which, as it says here, right? This is calm. This is excellent. Right? Giving up all, extinguishing craving, experiencing dispassion, nibbana. Right? This is also a reflection of that that it is possible to get there. That's right. When you are developing a perception related to nibbana, you are aligning your mind with the possibility that you actually can develop your mind to that point. Otherwise, it's just theoretical. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But when you do start to experience brief glimpses of this, that is showing you that it's possible, that you actually can do that. This is why the Buddha actually, like in Satipatthana Sutta, the mindfulness of foundations of mindfulness, the basic straight up teachings of mindfulness, the Buddha wants us to understand when our mind has something, mind is full of greed. Also, when our mind does not have something, mind is empty of greed. Knowing both of those is important. When the mind is full of attachment and greed and clinging, and when the mind is full of letting go and dispassion, right? And so you understand these are the states of the mind, and then you can see, oh, this is how it is. This is how it feels. This is how the experience of having this clinging, greedy mind is. And this is the experience of having this letting go, peaceful mind is. And then it's really a no-brainer as to which one you prefer to be in. And so this is this kind of developing a perception, training your mind that this is actually worth a goal worth working towards. And so then the next one is almost exactly the same, except for cessation is replaced. So, and what Ananda is the perception of cessation. Here in Ananda, a bhikkhu who has gone to the forest or to the foot of a tree or to an empty abode considers thus. This is calm, this is excellent, namely the calming of all mental formations, the giving up of all levels of rebirth, extinguishing craving, experiencing cessation, nibbana. The last one was experiencing dispassion. This ananda is the perception of cessation. So again, this is connected. The three, going back to the three levels of insight, nibbida, disenchantment, viraga, no passion or dispassion, and vimutti, which is freedom. Freedom from craving, freedom from suffering. So when you have a disenchantment, you see things as they are, so they're not as enchanting and intoxicating and enticing anymore. Your passion for that experience naturally goes away, and you're free. Cessation is freedom. Again, this is a deep insight. not, the awakening obviously is the deepest insight, but again, you can notice when you get to the point where you notice, you know what's in your mind, and you can see, like when you have anger in your mind, you can feel how heavy and kind of oppressive that is. That's a little bit of a deeper insight. Most people on the outside, they feel energetic and they feel powerful when they have anger. It's a delusion. But the next level under that is you see it's very heavy, very, it's like a miserable. But then when that anger goes away and the mind is free of anger, cessation, right? This is just simply the change of the mind. This is not even going as deep as becoming awakened. This is seeing that the mind was in this state that was causing you suffering, and that state has ceased. It's gone away. You can perceive that. You could probably experience that at least a couple of times during a sitting meditation, right? Observing. And you can observe the opposite too. You can observe everything's nice and peaceful, and like, oh, now I have a pain. But you can observe cessation, having the perception on cessation, instead of always trying to add, instead of trying to grasp, to have, to cling. Developing a perception, developing a mindset, an attitude of, actually, I like to cease. Cease my ignorance, cease my craving, cease my delusion, cease my suffering. That cessation is excellent and peaceful. And I want to keep this going, experience this more and more cessation. Because the more this craving and ignorance and attachment and clinging cease, the more peace and freedom arise. So it's good to have that. Actually, cessation is a good thing. Many people are actually very afraid of nibbana. Because when you really look at the mind, what you see is actually people are way more afraid of completely non-existence than like going to a hell realm. Right? Because they'd be like, well, I mean, it's going to be lots of suffering, but at least I'll exist. Right? People have this really deep, innate, visceral fear reaction to cessation. Right? Well, you will cease. Whatever you think you are will cease to exist. I don't like that. Cessation equals scary. Unless it's pain or something, then cessation equals good. But training the mind to actually, no, this is actually good. This is peaceful. This is nice. I should continue doing this. Right? If you don't have the mindset of actually letting go and lessening my suffering and ceasing these things is good, then you're not going to put in the practice to get to that point. It's like, oh, this is not good. Why would I want to do that? So you need to set the groundwork for what will eventually be direct insight experience, where you won't need to have a perception. You won't need to kind of train the mind. You will see it as it is directly. And your reaction will naturally occur. You will naturally have disenchantment, naturally have dispassion, naturally let go, and freedom will naturally arise. So this is you could say the three steps of wisdom and insight and letting go. Nibbida, disenchantment; viraga, dispassion; and vimutti, freedom. And these perceptions are setting the groundwork, setting the attitude, setting the mind state, that these are good, worthy things to develop our mind, develop our practice towards. All right, so why don't we now do our final guided meditation? So set your body up in that comfortable and stable position. Start doing your mindful scan of the body. Move over to following the breath whenever you're ready. You know the process by now. Continue to follow the breath until it's time to do our perception contemplations. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Let the breath lead you deeper and deeper. We'll begin our contemplations by doing a contemplation or reflection on things that we once held on to very tightly or held in high regard that we later gave up, changed our minds on, became disenchanted with, just like the example, the simile of the child letting go of the toy. Go through your life and try to see if experiences come up like this, where once something that was treasured is eventually let go of. This could be people, places, experiences, views, beliefs, etc. Contemplate this, understand how attachment and intoxication can eventually cease, for better or for ill. Now contemplate past experiences, people, places, experiences, ideals, beliefs, etc., that you had previously lots of strong attachment and passion to, but that went away. That experience has ceased, and you consider this to be a very good, positive thing. Contemplate these experiences, starting from remembering the attachment and the passion, the craving, through to the letting go and the reasons why. And then after the cessation, after the ending, the abandoning, the letting go. Continue to contemplate in this way for the rest of the period until the bell. Slowly start to open your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you and your body's position in it. Reflecting on the state of your mind before and after the meditation, and contemplating any experiences that stood out. So it's 26 right now. Why don't we take about a 5-minute break, and we'll come back to close out the retreat. Come back around 31.